I was doing some reading on knowing my white rights, and let's say if the cops stop me while I'm outside the car or whatever, and only in that instance about allowing the cops to see your ID. Really, when you're in the car, if you're driving or if you're a passenger in that car, or in a commercial a vehicle like a plane, yeah, you are required to show ID. But if you're just walking down the block or whatever, if a cop spots you, there are some parameters to think about whether or not the cops have reasonable suspicion. That's why they ask for some ID. But when it's towards black folk, it's like they're a monster because they automatically think, oh man, you black. So you're already doing something suspicious. So I went on this website called Flex Your Rights. It has a video right here. I put a link in the bio right underneath the video. When can police ask for ID? All right, so I'm not going to read all of this, but just like probably fifth paragraph down. All right, I think I'm going to copy and paste this in the description box below so you can read along or whatever. But anyway, as of fuck it, let's read it. Let's read the whole thing. Okay, so you probably seen old movies where the protagonist is approached by a Nazi or a Soviet guard in order to show your papers. We know that's the telltale sign of a police state. So if the police ever ask you to show ID during your travels, it's natural to feel violated. In a free society, for white folks, if you're black, society ain't so free. Citizens who are minding their own business are not obligated to show their papers to police. In fact, in the United States, there's no law requiring citizens to carry identification of any kind. So, when can police ask for ID? So here it is. Carrying an ID is generally required if you're driving a vehicle or a passenger on a commercial airline. These requirements have been upheld on a slippery premise that individuals who prefer not to carry ID can choose not to drive or fly. From here, ID laws only get more complicated in Hiibel versus 6. The Judicial District Court of Nevada. The Supreme Court upheld state laws requiring, excuse me, can you hear me now? From here, ID laws only gets more complicated in Hiibel versus 7th Judicial District Courts of Nevada. The Supreme Court upheld state laws requiring citizens to reveal their identity when officers have reasonable suspicion to believe criminal activity may be taking place. Can't read. So commonly known as the stop and identity statutes. These laws permit police to arrest criminal suspects who refuse to identify themselves. As of 2013, 24 states had stop and identify laws. Regardless of your state laws, keep in mind that the police can never compel you to identify yourself without reasonable suspicion to believe you're involved in legal activity. But how can you tell if the officer this is the important part. I want you to listen. But how can you tell if the officer asking you to identify yourself and has reasonable suspicion? Remember, police need reasonable suspicion to detain you. So one way to tell if they have reasonable suspicion is to determine if you are free to go. You can do this by saying, "Excuse me, officer, are you detaining me or am I free to go?" If the officer says you're free to go, leave immediately and don't answer any more questions. Don't say shit, just walk off, okay? If you're detained, you have to decide if withholding your identity is worth the possibility of arrest or a prolonged detention in cases mistaken identity. Revealing who you are might help resolve the situation quickly, or on the other hand, if you're on parole in California, for example, revealing your identity can lead to a legal search. Knowing your state laws can help you make the best choice. Remember that the officer's decision to detain you will not always hold up in court. Reasonable suspicion is vague legal standard, and police often make mistakes. Yes, they do. So if you're searched or arrested following an officer's ID request, you may contact an attorney to discuss the incident and explore your legal options. So it is what the hell? Oh, I had it on the wrong source. I'm like, what's going on? So that's very interesting, and I'm also going to read my state's laws on stop and identify statutes in my state, which is Maryland. I mean, Maryland is kind of lax. It's a southern state, but it's not really southern because it's so close to the north, but we right below the Mason-Dixon line. I mean, I'm sitting in Dixie right now, but it is a southern state, but it's not. It's a southern state, but with a Yankee mentality, up north mentality. So it's not really that bad as in racism. I haven't met or I haven't had any racist like undertones with people. Haven't been stalked by the cops. Saw a cop in like stores and stuff, say hi to, they say hi back, whatever. But it's good to know your laws in your state so you can be prepared if something happens. But just don't go outside vaguely not knowing what the fuck's going on. I mean, you know, keep yourself prepared and educate yourself on what shit will go down and how well you prepare for it. Anyway, that's my take on this. Peace out.